Travel far to find what was always here. A reflection on Ikigai, modern spiritual searching, and the forgotten treasures of Islam. There is a strange sadness that sometimes visits the heart, not the sadness of loss, not the sadness of failure, but the sadness of recognition. The sadness of discovering, in foreign words and distant philosophies, truths that have always lived inside your own tradition. Truths you were taught, truths your faith has preserved for centuries, truths that many around you seem to overlook. Recently, I read Ikigai, a beautiful book, a thoughtful book, a book that explores purpose, balance, longevity, mindfulness, gratitude, community, and the quiet joy of living. And yet, as I read it, I felt something unexpected. I felt pain. Not because the book was wrong, not because its insights lacked value, but because almost every page reminded me of something deeply familiar, something I had already known, something Islam had already taught. And I kept asking myself, why do people travel across oceans searching for wisdom while ignoring the ocean beside them? Why do words like Ikigai, Stoicism, mindfulness, yoga, and minimalism inspire millions? While words like dhikr, sabr, tawakkul, khushu, zuhd, and ihsan often fail to attract the same attention, why are people willing to admire spiritual truths when they come wrapped in Japanese aesthetics, Greek philosophy, or Buddhist language, but hesitate when those same truths come through Islam? This is not anger, it is sorrow, a quiet sorrow. Because the more I read modern self-help books, the more I realized that many of humanity's deepest discoveries are not new discoveries at all. They are rediscoveries. And many of them already exist, beautifully, comprehensively, and coherently within Islam purpose. Ikigai and Niyya, the central idea of Ikigai is simple: to have a reason to wake up in the morning, a purpose, a meaning, a direction, something worth living for. In Islam, this question was answered long ago. Why am I here? The Quran says. And I did not create jinn and mankind except to worship me. For many, this sounds restrictive, but worship in Islam is not merely ritual. It is orientation, it is meaning, it is purpose itself. Every act can become sacred: working, studying, feeding your family, smiling, resting, helping, learning. If done with the right intention, Niyya, even ordinary acts become worship. Is this not purpose? Is this not a complete philosophy of meaning? Ikigai asks us to discover our reason for living. Islam teaches us that meaning begins not by asking what we want from life, but what our Creator wants from us. And strangely, in surrendering to that, we find ourselves. Mindfulness and dhikr. Today, the world speaks endlessly about mindfulness. Be present. Breathe, observe, detach, center yourself. And these are beautiful practices, but Muslims have known this state for centuries. It is called dhikr, remembrance, to remember God consciously, to breathe with awareness, to repeat His names, to slow down enough to feel His presence, to pause the noise of the world, to reconnect the heart. What is mindfulness without remembrance? Presence without direction can calm the mind, but remembrance can calm the soul. The Quran says, "Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Temporary relief, not distraction, rest. How many people spend years chasing peace through techniques without realizing that peace may already be waiting in prayer, yoga, and prayer? People speak of yoga as though it is merely physical exercise, stretching, breathing, alignment, grounding, and yes, it can help the body. But many Muslims quietly notice something familiar. Our prayer, standing, bowing, prostrating, sitting, controlled breathing, rhythm, stillness, humility, repetition, presence. 5 times every day, Islam asks the human body to return to balance, not just physically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. Sujud, placing your forehead on the earth, is perhaps one of the most profound movements a human can make. It is surrender. It is ego collapsing. It is the body teaching the soul how to be humble. What modern wellness culture often seeks through physical practice, Islam integrates into daily life. Without subscription, without branding, without trend, only devotion. Stoicism and sabr. Modern culture has rediscovered Stoicism. Control what you can, accept what you cannot, master your reactions, discipline the self. Beautiful wisdom, necessary wisdom. But Islam has always taught sabr, patience, endurance, steadfastness, emotional discipline, trust in divine wisdom. Stoicism often teaches endurance without God. Islam teaches endurance with God. And that changes everything, because suffering becomes meaningful. Pain becomes transformative, delay becomes trust, loss becomes a test. And patience becomes worship, not passive waiting. Active faith community in Okinawa. One of the reasons Okinawan communities live long, according to Ikigai, is social connection, belonging, interdependence, shared meals, mutual care, support. Again, beautiful. Again, deeply familiar. Islam was never designed as an isolated spirituality. It is communal, congregational prayer, Friday prayer, Ramadan fasting together, Eid celebrations, charity, neighbor rights, family obligations, visiting the sick, caring for elders, breaking bread together. The Prophet Muhammad built not just individual spirituality, but community. Loneliness is one of modern humanity's greatest illnesses. Islam knew this long before psychology named it minimalism, and Zuhd. Today minimalism is fashionable. Own less. Consume less. Detach from possessions. Islam calls this Zuhd, to hold the world in your hand, not in your heart, to own things without being owned by them, to appreciate beauty without worshiping luxury, to live simply, to remain free. Minimalism is often aesthetic. Zuhd is spiritual. One organizes your home. The other liberates your soul. Why does Islam feel different to people? This is the painful question. Why are people open to wisdom from everywhere except Islam? Part of the answer may be history. Part may be politics. Part may be media. Part may be fear. Part may be misunderstanding. Islamophobia exists. That is real. But perhaps another reason exists too. Sometimes Muslims themselves fail to present Islam as beauty. We reduce a living tradition into rules. We speak of obligation but forget wonder. We defend but forget to embody. We argue but forget to illuminate. People are not always rejecting Islam itself. Sometimes they are rejecting how poorly it has been represented. And perhaps our task is not to complain. Perhaps our task is to reveal, to show, to embody, to become living proof that Islam is not merely law, it is wholeness. It is balance. It is psychology. It is ethics. It is spirituality. It is discipline. It is peace. It is meaning. It is love. The forgotten treasure. There is something heartbreaking about watching humanity search everywhere for fragments while overlooking a complete treasury. People seek mindfulness. Islam offers remembrance. People seek purpose. Islam offers intention. People seek discipline. Islam offers prayer. People seek gratitude. Islam offers daily praise. People seek emotional resilience. Islam offers patience. People seek simplicity. Islam offers detachment. People seek belonging. Islam offers community. People seek transcendence. Islam offers nearness to God. And yet many Muslims themselves are forgetting these treasures. Perhaps that is the greater tragedy. Not that others do not see, but that we no longer see clearly ourselves. Maybe we need to return. This reflection is not a rejection of Ikigai, not a rejection of philosophy, not a rejection of learning from others. Wisdom belongs to all humanity, and truth can be recognized anywhere. But perhaps these books should not make Muslims feel inferior. They should make us remember what we already have, remember what we have neglected, remember what our faith has quietly preserved. Perhaps we do not need to search farther. Perhaps we need to return deeper, back to prayer, back to Quran, back to remembrance, back to sincerity, back to humility, back to God. Sometimes the greatest discovery is not finding something new. It is recognizing what was always there. And perhaps that is my Ikigai, to remember, and to invite others to remember too.